task. So my background in accessibility is quite complicated. I was running an agency that specialized in e-commerce, and I fell down a flight of stairs. I hurt my wrist, and I was looking up shortcuts on a keyboard, and I fell into it, figuratively and literally. Started being amazed at all the things that no one had ever taught me while I was learning to develop software and websites. Never seemed to be mentioning any tutorial I think I'd ever followed, maybe in passing. And then, yeah, I decided to make it a core part of my business for a while, and then now core part of everything I talk about, really.
Sorry, I did lose sound there for a second because I tried to put my headphones on. So I kind of lost whatever you were saying just then.
It wasn't important, don't worry.
But I think you probably just introduced yourself, right? Okay, so it was the headphones that fixed it. So, guys, if you're here with me, you already know this always happens every stream. My apologies. I'm going to put my headphones on and try to make it work.
I'm just sat here mesmerized by the flashing lights on your headphones now.
I'm sorry. Okay, it's working now. I can hear you because when I turned them on before, I couldn't. Hey, Todd. Todd's in the house. All right, can you guys hear me? Is there an echo?
Fingers crossed that sorts it. We'll just
All right, sounds better. Awesome.
Super.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. We are finally good to go. All right. So, Graham, I'm so sorry. What did you say you were? What? Give me a 1 minute spiel of what you just said, so I don't repeat anything.
I got into accessibility by falling down a flight of stairs and looking things up. There you go. It's the 15-second version. So It was literally fell down a flight of stairs, was looking up commands, fell into the accessibility world, both literally and figuratively. And I've been in love with it ever since. And I keep adding more and more of it into my things that I do. But yeah, a couple of things I'll mention in a bit about that.
Okay, cool. All right, so we know, an injury is pretty much what got you into accessibility, having to adapt things for yourself using different technologies. Can you tell us more about that? Because I heard you say something about commands, but what else did you find as you were looking for things for yourself?
Oh, for me, it was quite simple because it was only like a week or 2 weeks of a temporary disability, but I was working one-handed. So I was looking up how to do like Control-Shift-Delete and stuff to start Task Manager and things like that, and discovered sticky keys. And then it said, sticky keys are part of accessibility. I went, what the hell is that? And like I said, I was blissfully unaware up until that point of the wonderful world of accessibility. And yeah, it was from that one little thing has spread a bit of an obsession, really, with something that not enough people know about or talk about. So that's why I like it. I like it for the fact that it's interesting more than anything.
Right. And at that time, were you working in tech already? What were you doing?
I had, sorry, you didn't hear it before. You did say that, sorry. Yeah, I had my own agency that was doing e-commerce sites specializing in load speed, so web performance. So we went in and a lot of the time we were fixing things that other developers had done and making them faster because that helps with conversions. So I just bolted accessibility on as the upsell. So we do the speed optimizations, and then I just do a very quick accessibility audit on one of the pages and show them 200 errors and go, we can fix this too. It was a great value add for the company.
Okay, so you're pretty much doing web development. Which languages were you using, or which languages do you use now that you know, out of curiosity?
Oh, so I'm old school with the stuff we were building, LAMP stack, so PHP and MySQL. Nowadays, a little bit broader, but still, like, Node, I know, JavaScript, I know very well. And I'm dabbling with Python now because everybody likes Python. So, I finally come to accept the fact that I'm going to live in a world with no brackets and curly braces, and giving that a go.
All
All
right.
right.
Sounds like I
Sounds
have
like
an
I have an
echo
echo
again.
again.
My
My
goodness.
goodness.
I have
I
no
have no
clue
clue
why that
why
would
that would
happen.
happen.
Let
Let
me.
me
Properties?
properties.
Okay, I don't know if this is going to make
Try.
it better or worse.
Is your mic the same as mine? Can you mute the mic?
Oh, in. Um,
Or you could always mute it in the stream thing. Just try muting your mic when you're not talking, see if that fixes it. Or is it only when Africa's talking? We're spending a lot of time fixing mic
I
issues.
know, I don't. It was working before. It's always the mic. I really don't know what it is. All right, apparently I sound a lot better now. I think it's
Right,
because I
that's
have
good.
it it reset when I changed it. All right, great. I'm so sorry about that, guys. It's gonna get better. No more echo from either of us. I fixed it. It is a mic thing. It's a me thing. All right, so you're using PHP, you're using JavaScript, you're learning Python right now because it's all the rage. That's cool. So what are your favorite things about working in the space of accessibility? Like being an accessibility engineer, what's your favorite part?
It's that moment when it clicks for people. That second where all of a sudden they go from accessibility is a pain to, oh, actually, it can make my life easier as a developer. Oh, and I have a massive impact on people. Oh, and I'm protecting the company from, like, when all the pieces click for somebody and they go, crap, why didn't I get taught this? That's the magic moment. That's the bit I enjoy most, because we used to do a lot of training of dev teams as well when I had the company. So that was always the fun part.
Yeah, that really is the fun part. I helped someone remediate a document yesterday, and her mind was like blown. She was like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know any of this existed. This is so cool." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so great." That really is the best part.
It's so great and so terrible at the same time. The fact that, like I said, I managed to go 7 years without knowing that accessibility was a thing. And so many developers today are still teaching stuff and like, I don't know anything about accessibility when they're being taught in boot camps and everything. Like, we haven't got anywhere with it, which is the worst part of it. So it's fun when people get it, but they're getting it way too late in their careers. They've already done the damage, shall we say, at that point.
Yeah. I try to have some empathy only because I'm like, damn, I didn't know this existed either until I kind of like fell down the rabbit hole. But it is frustrating because you have to fall down the rabbit hole forcefully. Something either has to happen to you, happen to someone else, or you have to like be working in it. So it's like the boot camps aren't
Or
teaching us and the universities aren't teaching us. It's
or
wild.
one of us shouts at people enough that they start paying attention. That's the third option.
Right.
But it's like I said, I don't hold it against any developer because they don't get taught it. I hold it strongly against people who do tutorials and don't mention it and don't work hard on it. I'm not going to name a name, but somebody asked me for a tutorial they were doing to do the accessibility stuff on it, and I turned their code into accessible code with loads of notes explaining why I'd done everything, and then they released the video with none of it in it, and I was really annoyed at that point because I'm like, you've now reached 10,000 developers maybe that are going to have learned things the wrong way and don't know about accessibility again. So I blame the people who teach, who have the audiences. Far too much, to be fair. I get a little bit too wound up about that.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could see someone leaving it out. That would be really frustrating. And for the other ones, I'm just assuming, I guess hoping that like they literally just have no clue that it exists, cuz like who's teaching it? We're all teaching each other the wrong things, and then a few of us are kind of like, "Hey, don't do that actually." All right. Well, speaking of that, what are you think the top 3 things that are the most offensive things that you see all the time? Like, what are the 3 things that you want people to walk away knowing they should not be doing when it comes to building their websites or their projects?
Oh, just 3? Okay.
Just 3 for now.
Oh, 3 for now. Okay, because we could just fill the next 45 minutes with me telling you things that annoy me.
I know.
But buttons is probably the number one. Like people not knowing when to use a button, when to use an anchor tag. That's been the thing that's wound me up for a long time. They'll sit there with their div tab index equals naught with all the handling focus. Like just use a damn button. Like that's the one that annoys me. That's an overhang from 15 years ago when we had HTML4 and you couldn't style buttons. Nowadays, no excuse. Use a damn button if it's a button. That's the one. The second one is the obvious one. Alt tags
Wait,
on
hold on.
images.
Sorry. Why is that annoying? What problem does that cause?
So whenever anyone tries to recreate their own button, they don't realize how many things a button actually does out of the box for you. So it's things like focus, actually being able to focus it, because people create divs out of buttons, forgot to add a tab index equals naught on it, so it's not even focusable. It's clickable with enter and space. Is that right, or is that links? No, it's buttons. I always get that confused. So you have to then implement that functionality on it, because you can't just add a click handle. It doesn't always pick everything up that it should do. Focus states, like if you create your own button, you've then got to create your own focus states for it and everything, and people always forget that anyway. Whereas it's so easy to just set the focus states once on a button element in your CSS, and you're good to go. Like all buttons will have a focus state on them.
Right.
There's so much more. It goes on and on and on and on and on. It gets announced as a button, so you don't need to add any Araya attributes to tell people
Exactly.
that. It's just I don't understand it. I don't understand why today we still have people who are creating buttons from divs, because a button can be any shape you want, and it's completely stylable. It's not like a
Right.
select. It's you can do whatever the hell you want with a button.
Right.
So yeah, there you go. Like I said, I could rant for a while on that, as you can tell.
Yeah, so I like this to be a little educational for those who don't really know how to code. They're just here because they're accessibility specialists or they're learning.
Fair enough.
This is important because we use screen readers, and the screen readers are the things that announce what's on the page. And if you have a button and you're using a screen reader, you're using your keyboard. So you're using the tab button to kind of navigate through and things are being announced to you. If you have it in a button, like semantic HTML, it'll be ready to go with assistive technology or with people who are using a keyboard to navigate versus having it in a diff where it's going to be kind of behaving differently. So that's, I think.
So if we're taking it down to that level, sorry, you should have primed me, and then I had to know
Oh,
where
it's
to say stuff.
okay.
I
Like I
went
said,
full
this
dev
is.
mode. No, on the most basic level, the biggest problem with developers not using a button element is normally that they forget to make it focusable, which for a screen reader user means they cannot activate that button. There is no way for them to activate that button in the first place. So that means that it doesn't exist as far as they're concerned, or they might be lucky enough to get the text of a button but never be able to press it. And so you can have whole sections of a website that are just not accessible to someone using a screen reader. So that's the big reason why just use a damn button element, because then it fixes all of those problems. You don't have to worry about it. And then the other thing I mentioned about Araya. So Araya is a way of you can use certain elements in HTML that don't have all this extra
Are you
information in
talking
them.
about area? Araya, I love that. Is that how I'm supposed to be saying it? Because I don't
I've
know.
no idea. I have no idea. No one's ever argued with me, but everybody always says, "Oh, I say it a different way." So, unless, just in case anyone's not clear, it's ARIA, and it's just basically an extra bit of information that we can add on to elements in HTML for screen readers and other assistive technology. We're going to have a debate about how you actually say it at some point.
Yeah, I
The
know.
important
Whole.
part is that like a button element has a lot of this information built into it automatically for you, so you don't have to think about it. But if you use a div is an element that has no information for assistive technology, screen readers, no information at all, so you have to provide all that information. So if I'm using a screen reader, I can go through all the buttons on a page with a shortcut key. If I use a div, I have to add a aria, however you want to say it, in order to identify it as a button so that it appears in that list for them. And also so that when they focus it, if I remember to make it focusable, that it announces it's a button and not just text. Because yet again, that makes it very confusing, especially with someone who's blind and using a screen reader. That they will just hear the text of the button and have to try and guess whether it's something that's clickable. Like they can focus it, so possibly, but so that's the reasons why.
Awesome. Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is the very obvious one: alt tags. Like it's the problem is that you get this, like the Dunning-Kruger effect with alt tags as well. Because there's 2 things that annoy me. There's the people who don't ever do them. So that annoys me, but I don't get that annoyed at the person themselves because I'm like, well, maybe no one's ever told them that they're important. Then there's the other people that annoy me in the same bag where they use it for SEO, so the keyword stuff the alt tag, and forget that this is to describe an image to people who are using assistive technology or as a fallback for if the image doesn't load. So those 2 people annoy me, but I don't get annoyed at them because they may never have been told about it. But the people who really annoy me, and they shouldn't annoy me, but they do, are the people who've been told about alt tags and then they haven't taken the time to read for 5 minutes on how to write a good alt tag. So they will put nonsense in there. It will either be, oh, here's a code snippet in an image, so they'll copy the entirety of that code snippet into the alt tag. Completely useless to a screen reader user. Like they just don't bother. Like there's better ways to provide that information. Or they'll just say like, oh, Donald Trump, and there'll be no awareness of context or anything. So it's like the Dunning-Kruger thing where like people are like, oh, I'm amazing at alt tags, and then you suddenly realize that you know absolutely nothing. It takes years to learn how to write good ones. The only advice I have for people, if you're a beginner and you've only just learned about alt tags today, they're very important for people using assistive technology. Without them, an image basically does not exist, and images do tell so many stories. Imagine in the context of whatever you're writing, whether it's a tweet, an article, or anything, that you're having to read this to someone over the phone. Then when you get to your image, just imagine that you had to describe that with enough information for them to get the context of the image and all of the value out of that image that's been created. So sometimes that'll be 3 or 4 words. Sometimes it might be 100, 200 words. That's the way to write good alt text. I think that's the best tip I can give for that. Just imagine you describing it to someone over the phone.
Yeah, and it's funny. Everyone always talks about alt text. It almost sounds silly because it's such a simple concept, right? But alt text, man, it's not on the web and it's not done well. But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's also hard. Like on social media, whenever I post a meme, I'll go into the GIFs library and I'll be looking for a meme, and then I'll be like, okay, how do I describe this? Because I know who that person is, but I can't remember the name. And then it's like, and then do I mention the meme? And so that's a tough one that I still struggle with now. And someone needs to write a guide on that. I'm looking at Todd or Emma, somebody in the audience to write as a guide on how to do memes. Oh, Chrissy, go for it, Chrissy.
Well, yeah.
I want to see it.
Meming is like on Twitter for me is like it's my art form. Just like reaction pictures and memes, just coming up with amazing alt text that's both funny and aptly descriptive. Just it's my favorite thing. Maybe I'll write the guide. I'm lying because I'm too busy and too tired. But I would love to. Okay, CBID, please do it. See, we're gonna have a guide on how to write a good meme, and it's gonna blow up because the people want to know. On how to write good alt text for a meme, I should say.
You could also do a guide on how to write a good meme, to be honest with you, because I'm practicing at the moment creating my own memes, and that some of them land, some of them don't. So I'm obviously not that good at it yet.
Yeah, we need more accessibility memes, to be fair, because people have low, attention rates, and the memes are going to reel them in. I'm just saying. All right, what's number 3?
You have to get a meme for it to actually make sense, and nobody gets accessibility. So I think it's the opposite. I think memes just would fall flat because they'd be like, I don't get it.
I just thought about it. I'm like, yeah, there would be a very select few of us who'd be dying laughing, and everyone would just be like, what?
Yeah. The only one I have got that people might understand that's ready to go is all the Agent Smiths from Matrix 2 and just div, 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 and it'll be like React applications be like. So that one kind of makes sense, and I think anyone understands that one.
Yeah.
But yes, number 3. You want number 3, don't you?
Number 3, please.
Oh, there's so many to choose from. You know what? It's the cardinal sin. Apple started this a long time ago, and then they fixed their ways, but nobody's ever forgotten about it. It is removing labels from inputs, and that can either be completely forgetting to add a label in the first place, or people who hide them, deliberately hide them visually because they're not part of their design. It annoys me more than if they don't actually add a label, because yet again I can go, well, maybe they're not aware. We can play ignorant card, and then someone tells them and hopefully they fix it. But people who deliberately hide labels, especially when they use display none, which for anyone who's not technical, display none removes it from visibly but also from the accessibility tree, so it doesn't exist. People do that on labels, and then it makes me laugh because I'm like, you just wasted time writing the label anyway. But the other thing you can do is hide it visually, but it will still be accessible for assistive tech and screen readers. The problem is that labels have so many more benefits when they're visible. Anyone who's got anxiety disorders, like they fill a field in, and if it hasn't got a visible label, they need to delete that text to check that they've filled the right field in, because they'll look at the placeholder text. So that's a nightmare without the label. Anyone who's got, say, Parkinson's disease and they don't have enough accuracy to accurately click on an input, the label itself, if you click on it, will focus the input if it's linked correctly. So there's so many reasons to have a visible label, and I absolutely hate it when I really hate it when people have a label and then hide it visually. It makes my blood boil, that one, because they are aware that they need to have labels and then they get rid of them.
Right. But one thing that I found, I don't know why I found it so fascinating, but when I was learning about labels and the importance of creating labels for forms, was how it does extend the focus out to the actual field rather than and the text. So you have this much huger area that's now put together that someone can either tap with their finger or select with the mouse. And if you don't have that, it's only going to focus on whichever part is selectable versus the entire area. So I thought that was really interesting. If you want to hear a grand offense, I was doing an audit on this. This is one of the reasons why labels are so important for those who are not as familiar, but there's a form field to put in something for a recipe. And for each field, visually, it'll just be like serving size. And then what they hid, the label that they hid, was like a paragraph's worth of extra information that, like, now visually the person who is not using a screen reader that's telling them this hidden label does not have access to. And then when you try to submit the form, you get all of these errors because the person didn't hear it, because they're visually seeing it. You can only hear it with a screen reader. And then the error notification didn't explain how to fix it. And I was just like,
this is the problem. You said give me 3, and I'm there going, error notifications. It's another way. Basically, we could have a whole stream just on forms.
I know. And we will, because that's a whole thing. That just needs to be done.
Well, I have an article that I've been writing for a long time on forms that has 101 tips for forms to go with my 101 accessibility tips article. So there's so much that people don't realize is built into HTML that's just mind-blowing, that can make your forms better. So I'll release it at some point. I'm taking a long time writing these big articles at the moment. So yes, we can rant about errors. And yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, well, speaking of...
I need my blood pressure to come down again.
I know, right?
Annoying me.
We're going to bring it down a little bit, and then we might rise it a little bit at the end, and then we'll take it back down as we wind down, okay? Yeah. But speaking of writing, you do a lot of writing. I know right now you're doing DevRel stuff. Can you tell us more about your writing, what is that technical writing that you're doing, blogging, how that ties into DevRel and what that means in the world of accessibility, or if it's not just accessibility, what that means for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So, interesting way that you've asked it. So I'll throw a couple of things in. So first of all, I've not released many articles over the last 18 months, but I have a lot that are queued up ready to go. So here's me publicly sort of saying that there's a lot of content about to drop in the next few weeks because I'm job hunting and I need to drop some content rather than having it all stored up. I've been held back because I've not finished my own website, but I've got to the point where it's like I'm just going to drop it on Dev2 and then worry about it later. But yes, I wrote an awful lot previous. I wrote varied stuff, some on accessibility, some poking fun at influencers and people who write nonsense listicle articles because it winds me. I'm easily wound up. I've decided after speaking to you here, I'm just a grumpy old man.
But we love it. It's okay.
Yeah, well, it's too fun to be spicy. Oh, spicy articles. So spicy, in fact, I got banned on Dev2. So that was fun. Yeah, I got a 2-week ban.
Tell us more. For like, don't
Yeah.
what? How do you get banned from DevTO? First of all,
it annoyed the hell out of me. It really did because Dev2 is a nice, fluffy place. That's the way that we'll put it. So me with my spicy swearies didn't fit very well as it was. And I put an offer out saying, you know what, I'll do a full review of people's websites for them, their portfolios. I'll do design, I'll do performance, I'll do accessibility. Like I'll do the full, as if I was doing a full assessment for a client like I used to do. And used to charge a lot of money for that. And the deal was I would do that, but the advice you got would be a roast. So
I love that.
it was going to be spicy. And I got banned for, let me remember the exact word they used, berating a young individual, aspiring dev, that was it, berating an aspiring dev, and for overuse of the F word. Fair enough, I used to but the berating, they even had in the article the thing where they said, yes, please, and don't hold back, I want you to swear. And then their response after saying, thank you so much, that was hilarious.
Oh my God.
So it wound me up nothing. One of the reasons I stopped writing for so long, like being brutally honest, because they were bothered about protecting people after it had 10,000 views, then they decided to ban it. Like if they banned it when it first came out, fine, but they banned it like 5 days later. So by that point, it was gone off the feed anyway. But it just wound me up enough that I stopped writing for nearly 18 months because that really annoyed me.
Where can we find this if not on Dev2, obviously? Please link it. We need it.
You know what? I think I can actually give you a link that you can get to because it's not been deleted. It's just been. Let me see if I can find.
Well, while you look at that,
while I'm finding it.
I'm gonna actually read a little bit of the chat for my friends who can't see the screen because some of these are kind of funny. But Todd Libby said that he just finished. Oh, I lost my focus on where it was, but he just finished an audit with over 100 empty labels and forms. He wept a lot. Oh, is this the link?
100 empty labels. Ouch.
Oh my goodness. And I'm collecting all of these links for everyone. And I'll send out a Google Doc at some point.
Yeah, no, if we like spicy writing, I've got a few. You should look through my back catalogue. I've got a few in there that are, definitely on the cusp of what's acceptable behaviour, shall we say?
Okay, well,
here's one. You know what? I'm going to share another one for people. That this one's an accessibility one, but this one raised a few eyebrows.
Okay, so what Graham has put in the chat is called "I review your crappy site's first victim is Bagya Mugdal." Oh my goodness. How the 7 deadly sins will make you an accessibility expert. I think I might have read this one actually.
That that has to be my favorite article I wrote,
I did
but it
read
was
this
just,
one.
you should never touch religion. That's the golden rule. But I had to have a go, and it was all in good fun and all, hopefully in reasonable taste.
Hey, Jason
Oh, Jason
Torres.
joined us. Hey, hey.
All right. Well, um, okay. So that's about your writing. So basically, you're doing writing on the side. Are you doing writing for publications, or this is just all blogging, Dev 2.0 type
No, I
stuff?
used to. I used to earn a good side income, actually. So if anyone's thinking of trying to get a bit of pocket money, writing for some of the bigger publications like Twilio and people like that can earn you quite a nice side income, and in some countries, probably
Twilio, Canon.
full time. Say what? Sorry.
What was the other company you said?
Oh no, I just
Twilio.
mentioned Twilio, but
Who
there
else
are
though?
several companies. Oh, who else did I write? I'm trying to think of the ones I can actually mention though. I can't mention any of those, but I know that you can. So this isn't who I wrote for. You
Mm-hmm.
can write for the likes of CSS Tricks, or I don't know. I can find you probably a list of like 25 different companies that will pay for your writing. I will look that up while we're talking.
Cool. So you use Dev 2.0. I know Hashnode is another competitor. Why do you use Dev 2.0 versus like anything else as a
Hashnode
person?
is not a competitor. Can we?
Oh,
And this
okay.
pains me because my friend Denny's literally just got a job there as DevRel.
Okay.
The problem is that Dev 2 has so much traffic and you get more views by a mile than Hashnode. Like Hashnode, you might as well spin your own blog up. All that Hashnode does is it has a lot of good writing tools, don't get me wrong, but you have to build your own audience, and
Mm-hmm.
it takes time and effort, and it's hard. Dev 2 is always where I say to people to start because the audience is already there. They don't have any bias in the feed as to who gets what. You get a bit of a boost once you've got a few thousand followers on there, and that helps. But other than that, it's and Emma's stolen my next point.
Yes, I was just about to
Uh,
say what she said, so let's talk about it. I forgot that she did
so
tell me that.
So the other thing with Dev 2 is that they actually work hard on accessibility, and they'll get an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for me. There's still a couple of things that I've poked them a few times and I've given up poking them about. I hope they'll fix them eventually. But overall, decent experience for people who are reading at least. I've never really looked at how good it is for writing there, but I imagine it's not bad either because they actually put it as part of their specs and stuff. So whereas Hashnode, yeah, good luck.
Okay, well, I have Hashnode. I don't think I have Dev 2.0. You have convinced me to switch. Appreciate you. I keep
If I'm
forgetting
going to
that they're
convince
not.
you to do anything, it would be buy an accessible theme for WordPress and build your own audience there, and then cross post to these platforms. Um, that's the way to build as a writer. That's where I went wrong, and that's what I'm trying to fix now. Hence why I've been holding so much back, because I want to post to my own blog and build my own damn audience rather than being reliant on someone else and just feed off them rather than feeding them, if that makes sense.
Right. I do have my own, but I don't know how accessible it is. We're not going to talk about it. I built
Maybe we can
this
do an audit sometime.
right now. I'm just like, I
Maybe
think
we can do a
I.
long stream where we
Oh,
fix some
gosh.
accessibility stuff.
Yes, we need to. All right. I don't want to. I know you have limited time and my meandering is bad. So let me ask you
Oh,
a
let's just
few
meander. It's
last
fine.
questions. No, because you have to go and I want to ask you the questions I want to ask. Okay. So tell me, tell me about DevRel first. Um, like looking at the time and thinking about all the things I want to ask you. But I did want to ask you about DevRel because you consider yourself in as a developer relations. Is that what we're supposed to call it? A developer in developer relations. What does that mean? How are you like? What are you doing in that space?
Okay, so first of all, terminology, because it is damn confusing, and this is why people don't understand it. DevRel is like developers. Developer advocate is like senior dev specializing in SQL. Like it's a part of a bigger category. So DevRel is a huge category,
Right.
and then there are sub tasks and sub activities within that.
Mm-hmm.
The simplest way to explain it is it's communication. That is the job. It's communicating to and with developers. So that can be in a marketing sense, or it can be in documentation. You can be responsible for helping onboard them. You can be responsible for putting proposals together. Like the whole sales funnel, if anyone's familiar with the sales funnel, I'm not going to explain that on the stream now. Is basically DevRel. So the only thing that's unique about DevRel, and the reason we don't just call it sales funnel, other than the fact that developers hate the word sales, is that you are selling, in inverted commas, to developers, not to the people who make the purchases. So this is where it's quite interesting. So in most industries, if you were trying to sell a product, you'd go to the person who runs the company or someone who's responsible for the buying, and you'd pitch them the product, tell them how good it is, and hopefully sign them up. DevRel, you kind of work the other way, which is you get developers to try your product and play with it in their own side projects. And then companies tend to ask their developers, hey, we have this problem. We need a new database. That could be a prime example. We need to use a new database provider. The old one's not good enough for what we need. Who do you recommend? And so the idea is that you've got these developers using your service or product, and they go, oh, yeah, I recommend Superbase or Appright. So whatever one they're sort of going for, I'm leaning Superbase, but we like them both. That's DevRel for you, and then all of the different things that you hear, Dev Advocate and developer, Excel. Oh God, what was it? Honestly, there's so many dumb words for it. Developer Experience Excellence Master or something.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, honestly, they're just mix-ups of the same thing. And the problem is, and the reason most people don't understand it finally before we move on is because it's such a broad thing and each company has different needs at any moment in time, it's not a defined job. It's like you could be doing a lot of marketing stuff, but you could also be doing a lot of documentation and video stuff, or you could be doing a lot of building a community and creating other advocates for the product. There's customer service aspects. So there's so many different things that it's like an anything role other than actually being a developer on the actual product.
Right. So are you doing anything specific in developer relations right now that you want to share? Any projects or anything?
At the moment. So I'm on the job hunt at the moment. So one thing I have done is I'm slowly building a DevRel focused community, because one of the main things that DevRels do is build communities. So what better than being the one who builds the community of the people who build communities? That was one thing that I thought was a smart way to do it. Second is I've got yet another massive article that's nearly ready, but I've got so many nearly ready things, it's annoying. I'm like the 90% person at the moment. Nothing's quite finished. All around DevRel. So speaking about it a lot, doing a lot of networking. So at the moment it's all getting out there and just interacting with as many people as possible and making myself known. Now, with that being said, here's a not quite exclusive, but pretty exclusive. I have decided that I am bored of the interview process because it's just crap. Point blank, it's awful in the whole dev world. So I'm going to go and bully a load of companies. So I've got some of the big names on my list, Vercel, Superbase, Appright, places that I'd kind of want to work. And I'm going to do some live streams where I am going to do accessibility audits and show people how many problems there are with their sites.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm going to pitch. Yeah. And then I'm going to pitch myself. And this came from Appright. They have a dream job section. I pitched. I want to be chief accessibility officer at one of those companies. So I can actually implement the things that I used to do at a company-wide level. So that's my new sort of tactic. And then DevRel will be my side sort of thing there because I just enjoy that.
I love that because that's literally on my list of what I'm doing next. I'm like, this is kind of, but I'm targeting specific companies. I don't want to say them out loud, but I'm like, oh, I'm about to comb through your accessibility like no one's business and stream all of it so that you can see it.
We can do something. We can work something out then where we we find a way of collaborating on these things and
I would love
splitting the load.
to. Heck yeah. I
Yeah,
keep
it sounds
hearing
like
about
fun.
Subabase. They're not like one of the companies that I was gonna do, but I would love to just see that one because I keep hearing about them.
I was going to do them a few weeks ago, but they are currently transferring over to one of the more accessible libraries for components. So, excuse me, I'm going to hang fire for as long as possible. But Vercel has a great bug. Oh, I really want to do a screen share to show you. No, I've just Vercel has a great bug on their documentation. It's one of the best ones I've ever seen. You're tabbing through the page when you get onto their docs, and the search box, when you tab to it, auto focuses and goes full screen. But when you come out of it, it goes back to the start of the screen. You cannot get past the search box, and it's only like the 5th item on the page. So the whole document for keyboard users, you can't get there unless you shift tab and go into it from the bottom and work your way up. It's one
Wow,
of the best,
wow,
the worst keyboard traps I think I've ever seen. It's amazing. Just because
wow.
someone had a brilliant idea of, oh, let's automatically open the search box when you tap to it.
I think it's hilarious that we're like on the same page about roasting people because the roast streams that I do are funny. Like I know that yours would be even better because you know more and you're funnier than me and you're more grouchy.
I don't know about yeah, more grouchy. I was gonna say, I don't know about funnier. I'm just a bit more brutal, because I don't.
You are
do that.
definitely a lot more brutal. Okay, I want to talk. We only have 10 more minutes, unfortunately. But I want to talk about some of the tools that you use. And usually I'm more involved with the chat. Sorry, guys, but Graham's only here for a limited amount of time. So I'm going to go back through these in our last couple minutes. Please ask any questions that you would like to ask, and we'll go through those as well. But what I want to ask Graham about is some of the tools that you use to audit websites that you really like to use specifically if you're kind of like roasting or I know you're probably manually testing, but if you have any tools. I also wanted to ask you about that really cool captioning tool that you used last time we were here. So Graham had something really cool where it was literally going across the screen and like live transcribing what we were saying, which is something that I'm missing and it would make my streams a lot more accessible, obviously. But I'm kind of just relying on YouTube to do it for me at the end because the streams are so long. But tell us about some of the tools that you really like to use.
I am literally dropping them into the chat as we speak.
Okay, awesome.
So the main one for me is still accessibility insights in terms of it's good for beginners and pros because they do guided accessibility audits and it covers probably 90% of the things you need to consider. So a lot of the automated stuff can only pick up 40 to 50% of things. So you need to know how to do the manual checks as well. Accessibility Insights has guides and tools that assist you doing the manual checking. So I find it one of the most complete solutions. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. I'm just trying to get the color contrast checker I have. So there are loads of tricks to check color contrast, but occasionally you need to be able to just get a damn color contrast picker out and actually pick a color off the screen because there's no way. Like Tailwind's a prime example. You normally in DevTools you can inspect an element and see what color it is directly in the DevTools, and then what most people don't know is you can expand that and it'll tell you whether it passes the accessibility stuff. Worst case, you can grab the color. Tailwind likes to use opacities to change the text variations. And that means you don't get any useful information out, and it's a pain to be able to test whether something's got contrast. So you need to be able to get a picker out,
Manually.
hone in on it, and actually go for it. So on Mac, I believe there's one built in, but I've not used Macs for years. Here's one that's free for Windows. It's incredible. It literally you just click a button and you can like fine tune. It's got a nice magnifier that tells you what pixel you're collecting, and then you can pick two colors, foreground and a background, and see if the contrast is good enough. Also really handy for gradients because none of the automated tools can work out if a gradient's accessible. So you can use that and test like the lightest parts of the gradient and check that that matches, or darkest depending on what color's on there. And then last tool, I have got a plugin. Let me just. Oh, I shouldn't have pressed it. Oops. Oh, I've just broken my stream screen. 1 second. I'm back. It's called Headings Map. It's a plugin for Google Chrome. Just a really handy tool. All it does is when you activate it, it gives you the hierarchy of headings on a page. So it gives you all the H1s, H2s, H3s, all the way down to H6s. It also tells you if any heading levels have been skipped, as that's one of the big things I didn't mention earlier that has impact on accessibility, because screen reader users tend to use headings to get a layout of the page and where the structure, etc. That's a great tool. And it, like I said, it's a free plugin for Chrome. You can download it. It's called Headings Map. I'm trying to see if I can get you the store link for that. Yep, I have got it. And that one is also in the chat. So those are the three main tools I recommend for accessibility testing. And other than that, have a checklist. W3C does have a good accessibility checklist. I ended up rolling my own after a few different variations, just because I find it easier, because some things I remember instantly and other things I'm like, oh, that's that one's one that I need to remind myself how to check it, or to, what things I'm looking for. But even now I can't remember it all. And I can't, here we go, checklist. Oh, that's the old one. It'll do though, give you an idea. I'll try and find the better one in a minute. Finally, you were asking about how to get captions on your stream. So first of all, do we know the difference between open and closed captions? Because that's important.
Uh-oh. I feel like I should know this, but now you're like freaking me out.
It's one that not many people know. Not many people know it. So it's an interesting one. So the only difference is open captions are when it's imprinted into the image. So prime example is you've got the stream chat showing on your stream right now.
Mm-hmm.
That is effectively the same thing as open captions. So they are basically part of the image. They're not something that anyone with a screen reader can access, but they can add benefits for other people. So that's what you were talking about that I do on streams, and I'll talk about how I do it in a minute. The correct way to do it in streaming is to use a streaming service that lets you use closed captions, which is proper captions. That's when as I'm talking, there is a caption file being generated on the fly, and a screen reader user can activate that and actually absorb that information in, which is very handy for people who use Braille.
Mm-hmm.
Few and far between, but the people who do, it's great that they can absorb your content. Mm-hmm. Also means that people can adjust the font sizes and everything else. But closed captions do 95% of the job, to be honest with you. So what I normally do on streams is I use a service, and I will link it, called webcaptioner.com. I donated them a little bit of money every once in a while just to say thank you, because it is free. So if you can't afford anything, don't worry about paying them. But if you can, give them a little donation to say thanks. And it's a web-based caption service. So you can just switch that on, and it will start as you speak. Once you get your audio levels right, it will create captions. The beauty is you can customize the colors and the fonts and all sorts of font sizes. So I then use OBS, and I position it in a certain position, grab a little part of that screen, and then I place that at the bottom of my picture. The only reason I'm not doing today is OBS, A, has been a bit funny for me lately. I don't know what that's about. And B, I was very late to the stream, so I didn't get a chance to switch it all up and what have you. So, but normally that's how I do open captions on my streams and stuff when I'm talking. And it's good enough. It's a free way to do it.
Yeah, it's helpful for those that can help. We only have about 5 minutes left before you have to go. So I want you to end with what you want everyone here to walk away knowing, if anything else. And then we're going to get into some of these comments and questions. You have a few questions here.
Know that you're not expected to know everything in accessibility. I don't think anybody does. I think the key thing is learn concepts, learn things to think about. So if you think about, can I use this with a keyboard? Is there enough color contrast on this? Am I showing information with things other than color? If you think of those three things and you actually try to use your website with a keyboard, you will probably catch 85% of accessibility issues. If people just did that simple thing, they would fix a lot of problems that are there. And then if you're brand new to accessibility, I would say, I'm sorry, I still to this day don't have a perfect resource for you to learn from. However, Emma has a good resource that's coming along. Emma, can you remind me in the chat? I know you won't be able to post links, I don't think, or can you?
AccessibleWeb.dev.
Is that it? I do have it saved. Wonderful. I just couldn't remember what it started with. So yes, accessibleweb.dev, I'm finding is pretty good. Google has a half decent one. I really feel like one of us, and it should be me, but I keep forgetting to do it, should do a complete beginner's introduction to pro complete course, because I don't think even like Sarah Surrenden's or who's the other person who does a great course, I can't think of the name right now, Claire something, even their courses like don't give you the complete beginner bit, or they go too beginner and don't go to the complex stuff. So I don't have a perfect answer for you on how to learn this stuff. I learned by answering questions on Stack Overflow, and I would encourage others to do the same, because then you have to go do the research to answer the things you don't know how to answer, and then you learn the stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of like trial and error and Googling and then begging people like you to tell me more. But with our little bit of time left, I just want everyone here to know that Graham's going to be joining us for the web accessibility study group because I'm forcing him to. And
yeah, I only found out today I'm joining there, but I've been taken on board apparently. So yes, I will.
So he'll probably join us for one of the study sessions and just help us out if we need any help on whatever topic it is. And I will send you all that information so you can pick a topic that you really like talking about. We have a whole 16-week thing we're doing. I'll send it to you. Also, I wanted to answer some of these questions with the 2 minutes we have left. Chai earlier said that they love how chaotic you are and that they aim to be like you. I just wanted to, if you didn't see that one.
Yeah, I saw that one, and thank you. That's exactly what I'm aiming for. Master of Chaos.
Yes. Turns out CSS Tricks is not accepting new writers, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense because digital, as Todd said earlier, DigitalOcean has killed CSS Tricks, to be fair. So yeah, ignore that
Dr.
one.
Tony Fast asked, what library do you like for their accessibility? You mentioned that you liked Supabase.
No. So I don't like Supabase for the accessibility. No. So Adobe React.
Oh no, you mentioned it talking about Supabase, not that you like it.
Yeah. So React Spectrum is not bad, but it is a lot of manual work. So if you're not familiar, they do have some stuff quite easy to style, pretty good on the accessibility stuff. So if you're using React, this is probably the one that I would say is worth looking at. There are a few. The problem with a lot of them, I do find, is they're still 85%, and they over rely on Araya to get round problems instead of actually thinking carefully about where to readjust things so that they can use more native elements. But still pretty good. You can't really go too wrong with that particular library. It's just a lot to learn. That's what I found with it. But yes, the only one I would say avoid, unless they've massively improved it, is the Tailwinds one, Headless UI. They keep saying it's accessible, and I'm sorry to swear, but it really is not. It's one of the worst products I've seen from an accessibility standpoint. At least they tried, but it's crap. Sorry.
I feel that. Todd asks, this is a troll question, but we're gonna answer it anyway. He asked, is 100 on Lighthouse, does that mean that it's fully accessible?
No, but in all fairness, 100 on Lighthouse is at least a start, because some sites don't even manage that. So it's probably 25% of all the things you need to consider. I know it's Axe, but Axe does more on its own than it does on Lighthouse. So 25% of the way there, there's still a lot of things you need to do. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, the automated tests only catch 40, maybe 50% of accessibility errors. So there's still humans involved at the moment. And AI is
Right.
a long way away from taking your job. So if you want job security, become an accessibility expert.
Low key.
There
Also,
you go.
Lighthouse, we're just talking about an automated accessibility tool, 100 meaning that it found all the, you're good to go. But no, that doesn't work. Let's see. What space and tech really grinds your gears when it comes to inaccessible websites? Todd said that theirs is education.
Oh, well, education, yes. Education in the UK is not bad because it is sort of government mandated. It's meant to be accessible, even though it isn't. And obviously, education should be open to all. But you know what? Just because it winds me up, Web3. I don't know what it is about Web3 devs. They build things that all look very similar. And I'm guessing they just copy paste each other's code and then tweak it for their own particular blockchain they're working on. And whoever wrote the first one, it was absolute garbage. So there you go. Web3, I'm calling you out, as always. I always do. I'm calling you out. Your sites are terrible from an accessibility standpoint. And documentation, like Vercel or Versal. I still don't know how you meant to say that. I like Vercel, it sounds better. Like the fact that they are so huge and yet have such a basic error in their documentation really winds me up.
Yeah, yeah. I actually have a YouTube video on Web3 and accessibility, which is funny. Todd said
I'll have to find that one.
Web3.
I'll love that.
Web3, which isn't really a thing, is horrible with accessibility. It's the flaming dumpster fire of fires. Hey,
Is
you
that
said
the
it, not me.
accessibility side or just Web3, Todd? You know? Anyway, let's not get on the Web3 action. Especially as ironically, I may end up, because I need to get a job, I may end up working for a Web3 company for a
Hey,
bit. So I can't
we
say
never know.
too
They
much.
might really pop, and I'm here for it. I'm here for anything that's gonna pop, and accessibility is needed everywhere. It's all good. But that is pretty much our time. We are absolutely 100% gonna do a second one of these, but it's gonna just be like, because this was kind of mild. This wasn't hot for me. You know what I'm saying? Because we had to get through a few
I'm not doing it
questions.
for you. Damn it.
It was great though. I really enjoy talking to you every single time, but I just know that we need to do a roast session together because this was kind of polite and I love that for us. But I
So,
want a roast
okay, so
session.
next time then, since now you've recruited me for your own nefarious purposes as part of the Web3 accessibility group, Web3? God, I read Web3 then. The accessibility group is we're going to do a review of one of your sites because
Oh
as
my
an
God, no,
accessibility
it's too
expert,
embarrassing.
you're
Please.
yeah, no. There's no excuses because I'll let you get your own back and you can check one of mine. So
Okay, but
between
yours
us,
is gonna be way better. I can barely code, guys. I'm just here for the clout. Like, I don't know anything.
but then we'll fix something together. So I think that's what we should do. You've got to start at home, practice what you preach.
Okay, well, it's on my list of things to do.
You
So,
shouldn't just sign me up to things without asking.
okay,
Now I signed
okay.
you up.
I needed to do this anyway, so I appreciate the help. I'm gonna see it as help instead of torture and being embarrassed about it. Um, so I guess I'm gonna roast my own self on stream soon, y'all. All right. Well, I have to let Graham go because I don't want him to be late. But thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk about when we're gonna have our coffee chat number 2, which will be a little bit more casual and more about accessibility topics that grind our gears and things like that. But I'll see you all next week for our next coffee chat, which should be the same time on Friday. All right. It was good seeing y'all. I love hanging out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Accessibility crew in the building. Hey. I'll see y'all next
We
time.
need some sort of secret handshake or something.
I know, right? Because I'm like, it's like 10 of us. We're just out here like doing the accessibility thing online. I love it. Thank you so much, Graham.
No, thank you. I've had a great time, and thank you to everyone in the chat as well. See you all soon.
Alrighty. Bye, y'all.